Hello. Fucking works finally. Um, I was kind of worried about that because I had dropped it earlier, so I was a little bit worried this might not work, but it does, so that's good. Anyways, moving forward, this is going to be on three different topics, primarily that I've mapped out in my mind for what to make this video. One is the Supreme Court and why that matters quite a bit to the country, actually, and two, is white poverty, basically, or that is to say, the poverty is a pan-racial issue, and the annoyingness of some people on the left, identity politics that I don't like, and I really don't pay much thought to, honestly, beyond when it works with class issues that I'm more worried about, and I do care more about LGBTQ issues, but largely I'm more of a class leftist. If you want to say it's class reductionism, I really don't give a fuck. I'm just more into class issues. I'm also anti-war and pro-environment, and I'm a social liberal or a social libertarian. That's the kind of leftist that I am. But I'm going to be talking about that, and I'm going to be talking about hopefully how the pro wrestling industry has been so screwed up by a certain strata or a segment of its audience. It's becoming a lot more boring than some football. But primarily, this is actually probably going to be about lingerie football, and I've known about this for a while. I mean, this isn't new because I've known about this largely probably since it became a thing almost. But it's just interesting to me that while wrestling is supposed to be in the entertainment business more than sports business, we have somehow entered a stage in human society where football has now become more multi-dimensional and um, multifaceted than wrestling. They used to be very good, and I have seen them go back in that direction. Largely, I think mostly because Fox told them to, because they saw the fucking ratings and that shit wasn't working. But certainly for a decade, they spent not only promoting and pushing feminism, that is, again, a form of identity politics, and it sucks, but also trying to be a sport, something they're not and never were. Now, does it involve athleticism? Yes, but it's not a sport. It's sports entertainment. And I'm sorry, I know you can say that's just something Vince McMahon made up, but I think it fits the description of what it is very well. It's sports and entertainment. It's not one or the other. But anyways, getting back to the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. That I would think should probably matter to a number of people. Probably, in fact, probably or possibly to a lot of people. And here is why. First off, this is not going to be a video on my disagreements with her, and I'm sure there were many, or issues such as the feminism and her being a feminist. And granted, she's like 87 years old, so maybe I'm guessing when she first took the seat, there was probably a more logical reason for that. And it's not going to be about my disagreements. And because again, she has died, and obviously when anyone dies, you want to be respectful of them, and I don't have that big of an issue with her not to be. So there's that. And second of all, there's the Supreme Court issue that I'm not a big fan of the Supreme Court itself, and I think is structured incorrectly. I think it's a mess, and I don't think it's a good idea to give that few people that's not elected in a democracy. They're not even democratically elected. That much power for that long, and as you saw with her, remain in office or remain in the court until they die. In her case, at 87 years old, even as she was sick and in and out of the hospital. I don't think that's a good idea, and that's part of what I am going to talk about here and how we got here, or got to this place, and the problem we have now. But I don't want to talk about that as many issues as I have with the Supreme Court, because one thing we can agree on is we have found out, if you're going to have one or the other, even if you don't always agree with them, it's probably better to have a liberal Supreme Court justice than a fucking conservative one. And that is the problem, and that is what this will be about. This segment of the video will be about. As I have said before, they should not let people remain in office until 87 years old, but they did, and she has now died. So the question is, during this election, this fucking election, is Trump going to try to push through a Supreme Court judge? And I will say something nice about Trump in a minute, having to do with this, but not right now, as well as his people that don't like him. But um, is he going to try to push through a court justice before the election? And are other people like Lindsey Graham said he would not do that earlier when debating someone, or for that matter, um, I think Mitch McConnell, who also said that he wanted to um, do that, or said that they should hold a vote immediately, not even that long after she died. And that's going to be a very big issue, if I'm not mistaken. That has happened already with McConnell. And the reason that is an issue is, first of all, they've already went after abortion. They have already went after abortion. They have overturned a fucking the mandate. I believe the courts agreed to this. The mandate that employers, private employers, had to cover birth control for women that they're underpaying, because again, we need a higher minimum wage, but we don't have that, and they don't want to cover birth control either. And these are the same people that are against abortion, by the way. So they're showing you how against abortion they are by making it more likely that more women will have abortions, and many of these women might not be able to pay for birth control, and so forth. And even if they can, I think it's the least they can do, considering the fact you're not actually paying any of your workers, male or female. In many cases, probably what you should be paying them. But they don't have to do that for religious reasons. And again, in a capitalist society, Christian, supposedly, I'm supposing, or any other religious person that doesn't want to cover birth control, their main concern is in helping feed the poor, helping feed the hungry, helping take care of some of these kids they don't want to, they're against abortions. They don't want to help take care of those kids that are going to be had now in Alabama. And a lot of them are decidingly, the conservatives that most of these people are, they're decidingly against food stamp, welfare, or any kind of social welfare, food stamp, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, or anything like that. They don't want a UBI. They don't want to raise the minimum wage. They don't want to do any of that, but they don't want to cover birth control either. So they've already done that. Now, that's just with the conservatives we have, and it's not going to take many more before, you have a very decidingly conservative Supreme Court, and that's going to be a major fucking problem, and they've already went after that. So the question is now, what's next? If Trump manages to pack or weasel his way into packing the Supreme Court full of yet another conservative Supreme Court judge, what are they going to go after next? Are they going to try to repeal gay marriage? Because in 2012, if you will remember, they made that a federal protection. They established federal protection for marriage rights for gay people. Are they going to go after that? Are they going to try to totally gut social safety nets and do it with the Supreme Court? Are they going to try to possibly totally repeal Roe versus Wade? Where do they go next? Are they going to try to overturn possible the state's decision to whether or not to make marijuana legal? Anything can be done with these people. So, that's a major issue that we should be concerned with. And while I'm not a big fan of the Supreme Court, like I said, and I probably disagreed with, of course, many of her beliefs and decisions herself, it is largely, as I said, better to have a liberal Supreme Court justice than a conservative one who you can at least hope might be okay about some things, as to where the conservative is almost sure to be full of shit about almost everything. But I can almost assure you that if Trump does pick a Supreme Court justice, it will be another conservative one. He's certainly not going to pick a liberal, and he's unlikely to pick a moderate. But in some ways, maybe a moderate might even be better than a liberal Supreme Court justice about some things. I don't know. But and that would seem to be a reasonable choice, but he probably won't. And considering the fact she was liberal, I guess, by their definition of the word, I would think that, in order to honor her, you might want to pick a liberal, but they probably won't. So, and even if, of course, Biden does win and you're able to rate it out or hold off, you have to remember Biden is not nearly as liberal or as left-wing as they might want you to think. And I don't I don't necessarily hold him to or hold him in totally incapable of picking a conservative Supreme Court justice himself. Now, it's much more likely, I think, he might pick a moderate, or he might pick a Democrat because he discovered of Trump, and we got him out of there finally. But it's also very likely that Trump would pick a. I mean, that Biden would. Well, it's more likely Trump would, as I said, would pick a conservative Supreme Court justice, but Biden might too, because Biden, whether you know this or not, has a very conservative voting record, and he even was against Medicaid at one time, where he tried to hold spending on Medicaid and Social Security, even Social Security for the older people that had paid into it, because that's not a Ponzi scheme, just like a lot of shit we do, where it's basically government racketeering. And I guess yeah, you paid into that your entire life, but then and in order to get Social Security, if you're male or vote, you have to sign up for the draft. So if there's ever a draft, you have to join the army, and a lot of these people did in Vietnam. But he was totally okay with limiting Social Security spending at one time, and now he says he isn't for that. And I don't know exactly what happened, but he was for a number of things that was very conservative. And he wrote this crime bill primarily, and he voted for the Iraq War and wrote the crime bill. So the idea that he would not pick a conservative Supreme Court justice, I don't know. And for all you liberals, not only neo-corporate leftists, but some of the left wing that I'm about to go into, certainly the MSNBC ring of that party, this is what you can expect when you do this type of stuff. Because you wanted a moderate, because you thought that could be Trump and not Bernie, and well, you got a moderate. But I don't know that, and I was going to say something good about Trump, and I will. When she died, he was very respectful about the way that he talked about her, and I thought that was very becoming of him. For once, he actually seemed reasonable. And I also want to say about his detractors or the people that don't like him, and I'm one of them. But I will say this about them. I thought it was good they didn't turn this into an attack on him, because I do notice sometimes more in the past, because not so much anymore, because he tends to not be or rarely be correct about many things anymore. But when he would do or say something reasonable, they would try to attack him for it. And I think that's crazy. And you shouldn't do that. If someone's right or they're being reasonable, you should just admit that. And they did this time, and they were everyone seemed to be reasonable about that. So I give them credit for that. And I'm not so sure that hasn't probably pushed him even further right, or made the problem with him worse than what it was, because he seems to have gotten worse over the years. But what do I know? Moving forward beyond that, but yeah, I guess in a nutshell, to close that out, you need to hope that they can hold it over until after the election and hope that Biden wins. And I think if they have the election, Biden probably will win, because I don't think Trump will win as bad of a job as he has done over the last year and all the crazy shit he said and did. And I just don't understand how he could spin it and make it look like he's a better choice. But provided he does win, we're fucked. And if he does this before the election, we're fucked, because he will pick a conservative. And we have seen that they don't care at all about the Constitution. And all of these people, including Alex Jones and other people, have proven that. So moving forward to other news, as far as the issue of poverty, or the issue of, I think, any kind of white poverty or wealth gap, I have said before, I am not totally against the ideal of white privilege. In part because I do think there is a issue of that in America. I do think black people tend to do worse economically. And there's certainly more truth than anything to the fact that in the justice system, in dealing with police officers, I think white people tend to be punished indiscriminately. Now, you can argue how much of that is race and how much of that is economic class. But regardless, I do think it's there, and that's true, although I think it shouldn't be overstated and over concentrated on or whatever, because I think that a lot of white people are impoverished too, and that is going to be what this is about. As to where I will say about identity politics, some identity politics, such as feminism, I think is largely at this point in history complete total horseshit, and I don't believe to be true. I don't. But with that being said, on the issue of that, I've posted, there's a page I like on Twitter named Accidental Left, or left accidental or some shit like that. Anyways, I posted from it. I first heard about it from a video I was watching from Secular Talk that I liked. So I post stuff from them every so often, and they're a left wing um, blog or whatever, or page, whatever they are, blog or whatever on Twitter. So I posted one by them, and it was a guy who was shot by cops in a, I guess for something he did. He might have been one of the shooters that shot at protesters. I don't know what he was. I didn't really care. But the point is, he might have been Antifa actually. I don't even know what he was. But I posted something they posted because I agreed with the irony, because it says maybe this guy just needed housing assistance and or housing, affordable housing and social living assistance too. To say that that wasn't what's wrong with him. He was just a murderer. And I treated it, because the point is the irony, because he posts these ironic things that conservatives post. And the thing is, I agree with that. I think that probably is what it was. And I think that the original poster was saying that's not what it was. But I think anyone, and I, being a person that has been broke in the past and known a lot of people that were dirt poor, that does that does suck. And I think that can inspire someone to commit criminal acts. And maybe not what this guy did, but certainly if you're poor and you don't have a lot to lose, and let's say you want food or something, you're more likely to steal food, or in these riots, you're more likely to steal a TV. If you're totally broke and have no means of making enough money to buy a TV, and you don't look to be making any more money or any ability to make a living anytime soon, you're more likely to commit those crimes than if you don't. And that's true for black and white people. But the Republicans, and I even wrote, the Republicans basically believe in socialism. They're socialists and believe in socialism too. The only difference is they take your money and they take your money and they basically use it to shoot you. And that's basically true. The Democrats give you social assistance, at least the ones that are good, and that's the main thing that is going to kill the Democratic Party, if anything does. It's not going to be the left wing necessarily identity politics, although that hurts it too. But it's going to be their ability or inability to stand up to corporate neoliberal centrist and a lot of what they do. And the identity politics, like I'm about to talk about, where I am trying to talk about, that only piles the shit on. But someone else posted in the comment section, and maybe this was the point. Republicans only care when it's a Democrat. They will say when it's a Republican, when black people are shot or something about police, they don't say that, well, what could we have done to prevent this? But they do say that when it's a white person. And I didn't say this to them. I was trying to be a little bit more diplomatic. And I basically say I think that about both. And some Republicans are racist. But yeah. Anyways, what I want to say about that is, what fucking world and what dimension does that person live in? And where, when, how? I never see Republicans do that. I see Republicans always defend a cop. A lot of them, anyways. Although I'm not saying some aren't racist. And just give me a minute. I'll be back. Anyways, I do think a lot of Republicans are racist, or they can be racist, but I think at the top, I think it's mostly about money. And the Republican racist ones are usually useful idiots. Although you might not like them, they are still, I think, more idiot than anything. But they're basically capitalists, and they always say that about basically all poor people. And I have known many poor people, black and white, and I can tell you, and I've had them in my family. I've had friends who are black and white, and some of the white ones were poor, and some of the ones who weren't white were not poor. And of course, there were the what you would consider the stereotype to be on both sides of that. And I have myself been broke before, so I can tell you that sucks. And like I said, that does contribute to crime, I think. Not to say I went out and committed crimes or something, but, I mean, I can see how that would work. And I think that does happen, especially in rioting and riot type situations. Now, I'm not saying that was this person's problem, and that might not have anything to do with what he did. And I'm going to have to continue this over to a new video. But the point is, there are plenty of poor white people. I just want to say that, and anyone that denies that is, you're fucking delusional, and you're not doing yourself or your movement any favors, and you're making me and other left-wingers look really bad.